Ladies and gentlemen, Grace and Good Friends, Season 2. I don't know what episode this is off the top of my head. I'm losing count, but we got a very special guest in the building today. This man is a teacher, a leader, and a good friend of mine. Y'all make some noise for Mr. Robby Ramsey one time. I had to hit you with the paparazzi. I lost my pad functions. I usually have applause.
That thing's
I
cool.
always do it right there. I couldn't do it today.
I like the pad.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Nice.
God, that was loud. All right, we're working on it, man. We're working out the kinks. Dude, how are you? Thank you for being here today, man.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to be here.
I know you drove in the gloomy weather. It's a little rainy. You drove a distance. Most people do because we are like way out there. So I don't take that for granted. So yeah, thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Of course.
For anybody watching this episode that maybe doesn't know who you are, could you give like a brief explanation, man? What you do, what you're into, and what you're about?
Yeah. So 7 years ago, I got saved, and you checked me into the men's home.
I did.
I was a heroin addict for 7 years before that. And then about 4 years later, 3.5 years later, my wife and I, where we met was at the men's home and the women's home. We decided to get married. And when we left, we joined Watermark in Fort Worth. There is a Dallas campus as well. The Fort Worth one is separate from the Dallas one, but we joined the Fort Worth campus. And I actually started serving on AVS because of where we served at Victory. And then about a year into that, some people had just heard my story and knew what I did prior to being there after I'd kind of laid low for a little bit and relaxed and reset. And I was asked to join the Porch team, which is a ministry for young adults. Okay. And I started serving there at the beginning of 2023. And now I just help teach and lead the young adults there. And then as far as hobbies go, really the only hobby I have is playing men's rec league basketball with Emmanuel. So
okay, yeah, and you're pretty good at that. Yeah.
We're all right. I mean, we take it a little bit more serious than we should, but you know.
And you and that's not anything. Well, first of all, I don't want to discredit how awesome it is to go. I mean, sometimes we overlook a testimony, right?
Yeah.
But how powerful it is to go from being, I don't like the word addict, but to be someone who's like using drugs in that lifestyle and to actually allow like the gospel and God's love to like transform you and now use you in that way. It's awesome, man. If I could clap on this pad, I would do it right now, but no, that's awesome.
I think people get caught up in, even whenever it's just the addict side of things, I think people get caught up in saying, like, if you're ever in an NA or AA room or CA room or whatever, those anonymous rooms, you get caught up in believing that's what you are forever. And so one thing that I learned early on was it's not who I am forever. It's who I was, and it definitely was a big part of my life. But it's just not, like, I don't define myself as an addict forever. That's not what I am anymore. So
how do you perceive the statement of like taking the addict mentality and now applying it to something else? Do you think that is like, it was an addict for something bad, now you're an addict for something good? Do you think that's like applicable, or would you say there's actually a thick line that we're not talking about that's like, no, these are two separate parts of my life, these are two separate things, the addict concept is completely gone? That's
a really good question. I mean, I was a disciplined kid.
Okay.
Like I was like my father and I, we don't have a relationship today, but growing up, he taught me how to be disciplined. My dad was the type of guy that would wake up at 5 a.m., bike 7 miles to work, come home, take care of stuff around the house. He was an alcoholic, but he was very regimented and very like disciplined in his day. And I'm the same way. So like I'm very routine, even prior to addiction. And then in addiction, I was still very routine. Like even when I would go get my fix, I would still do things a certain way, the exact same way every single time.
Procedure.
So I don't really know if applying the addiction life to post addiction life is really there. I've just always been a regimented person. And I think I don't apply the same mentality of like I strive for Christ the same way I strive for drugs, because
that's why I brought it up, because we hear that sometimes. And I just wanted to get your take on
my take on that is my love for Christ is way more powerful, assured, concrete than because I hated my addiction.
Than said addiction.
I hated my addiction.
Yeah.
I sought after my addiction, but I hated it. Like I despised it. I did not like it, but I did it. I enjoy what I do. So it's two different. It's not the same.
That new life, that relationship.
I understand the analogy, especially where we
yeah,
come
and
from.
in some ways the analogy, and that's again why I brought it up. Since at a surface level, it seems like it goes.
It does. It at a it's very surface for it to be parallel and run together. But I don't. No, I don't. I think that those are two separate lanes, and both can be true, but they don't necessarily have to intersect.
Nice. And I will say, just to confess, so I don't know if y'all caught it earlier. He mentioned I signed him into the men's home and
at 2:30 in the morning.
At 2:30 in the morning, and I did not want to that night.
Right.
I wasn't being a good phone guy that night because you work the overnight phone, and the heart behind the ministry, the system is like when someone comes in 24/7, it doesn't matter what time.
Yeah.
We sign them in. We lead them in a sinner's prayer, and we get them into caregiving, and that's kind of like the initial steps of someone's transition into, one, sobriety, two, hopefully getting saved and living a new life. So anyways, I'm there. It's like 2:30, dude. I'm like 22 years old at the time.
Yeah,
I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I guess, to my understanding, you had just gotten out of jail that night. Yep. And so he calls the home because some guys were out passing out flyers by the jail.
Shout out Tucker.
Yeah, total God thing, honestly, looking back at it. Super cool. I love, like, these kinds of stories, just like showing God and how he orchestrates things way bigger than we could ever try to.
Yeah.
But so he calls the home, and I'm on the phone, and I'm just like, I actually tried to convince him not to come. I was like, hey man, is there any chance you could just come by in the morning?
Not only did he try to convince me not to come, he tried to convince me to come after he would be off the phone in the morning. So he said, come at 8:00, which that's the end of his shift on the phone. But I didn't learn that until like 6 months later.
Being honest, I didn't want to do the paperwork. I don't remember specifically. I'd probably signed in already a couple people that day. Probably had a long day of fundraising ahead of me. I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. But luckily, he showed up. Him and his mom pulled up in the Jeep. I'll never forget. I ran out. Well, I didn't run outside. I walked outside. We got this dude in the home, and
I asked if I could smoke a cigarette before I went, and my mom pulled off, and I smoked a cigarette at that house across the street.
Yeah. I don't remember that.
And
The rest is history.
It's crazy. I remember when I got there thinking that I was walking into something crazy, not knowing I was walking to, because like all the tiki torches were lit.
Oh, were they?
It was like
May.
the beginning
It was May.
of summer,
Yeah.
so it's like, but man,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was creepy.
That's cool, man. No, I walked up. I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I got signed in like on a Tuesday from 3 to 5. So everybody. And what that means is basically everyone is like resting, a siesta. I didn't know that, of course, right? I'm just showing up. But I got signed in with one phone guy, and when we lead in the sinner's prayer, there's usually a group of men that come out.
There's like 2 guys,
and we celebrate. There was one guy.
Oh wow,
it was Armand. And I remember thinking, like, what is this man doing? What is this huge man doing?
Yeah.
Like clapping and yelling in my face.
Yeah,
super weird for me, but I'll never forget it. It was a beautiful thing looking back at it. So
yeah, it's you, Richie Ramsey, and JJ, dude.
Yeah, too. And we were like whispering. I remember we were whispering for you because
that's like peak home. That was like 110 guys.
Yeah,
it was like that for like my first year until COVID hit, really.
Yeah,
but I mean, that was like peak home, dude. It was like no sleeping space. There was no anything.
It was a unique lifestyle that was very good for I would say character building and discipline.
Yeah, 100%. The home serves its purpose. And Wes was, speaking of Wes, he was my caregiver, dude. He gave me like 4 cake pops on Saturday.
Wow.
Those Starbucks cake pops.
I remember those cake pops.
Those were bomb, dude. And then until you run out and
yeah, and then
those sweets just take over.
And then you're just like, I need more cake pops.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it was pretty sweet. And the Lord blessed my time there. And I mean, it's where I met my wife.
Awesome. How long have you been married?
3.5 years. We got married September of 21.
I'm gonna pop a bottle to that, boy. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got married September. We eloped in September of 21.
Oh, eloped.
Just the two of us and the pastor she grew up with, and his wife, and
awesome.
I think it's their granddaughter.
Now I know this because I was there, but for those who don't know, you actually went back and you did have a wedding. You had a ceremony.
Yeah. So we had a ceremony in April of 22. That was more or less Bailey and I's way of like trying to just celebrating with our close friends.
Yeah. But no, I was gonna ask. So being like someone, maybe your answer is a little biased, but for people maybe that want to get married or they're thinking about eloping or anything, what's your insight on that? Like, how did that process or like occurrence affect you? Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? You regret it? Like what?
I mean, that's a question that I encounter a lot just because where I serve in the church in general.
Which is young adults, right?
And they're all single and
Of course. Or dating, maybe.
or seriously considering getting married. And so people always ask what the right time is. And I always just say, if you know, you know, because at the end of the day, like the person I married in September of 2021 is not the same person that I'm married to right now. The characteristics and the foundation are the same. Christ is the center, who she is, her, like just who she is in general is
the
still,
foundation of why you were attracted to one another.
correct.
And
But
certain
there's
things.
change in relationship. And I always say you have to love the change. And I would say that we dated intentionally because I mean, we didn't really get the opportunity to date like normal people.
Sure, yeah, it was a little restricted, maybe.
Yeah. So I would say that anyone that's currently dating, you probably know pretty soon. That doesn't mean that jump into it 3 weeks later. That's a little quick, but I would say that if you know, you know, and at the end of the day, if you say I'm dating to find out who she's going to be, like you're going to find out that she's someone different 10 years into your marriage than she was the first day you got married.
Facts.
So
1 year into the marriage, dude.
I think I think dating intentionally is knowing that there's a few things that you have to agree on. You have to agree that you both have to agree on religion. So you both, in my opinion, that would be Christianity. So you would have to believe that you were on the same page, running the same race with the same vision and the same mission.
And biblically, we can cross that with scripture, right? It talks about being equally yoked.
Correct.
Is that refers to marriage, right?
That refers to life. It's like I have friends that I would say might not necessarily be walking with the Lord, and so that doesn't mean that I disregard them or don't speak with them. But my relationship with them looks different. The way I talk to them, the way I minister to them, way those things. Like there's a certain. It looks.
It's a different way you're delivering the message.
Correct.
The same message, probably, right?
And so I mean, there's only one message.
Right.
So it's I totally get
it's the approach is
100% different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Know your audience. That goes back to knowing.
Yeah, and so when it comes to marriage, I would say that, in my opinion, the way it would work is that you have to be running the same race. You have to have the same vision. You have to have the same mission. You have to agree that Christ is the center. And if you can get that out of the way quickly, then you need to find out what your timetable is. So I asked Bailey, I think it was our first date, probably 2 months into us dating. It was our actual first date. And I was just like, hey, what's your 3-year goal? What's your 5-year goal? And obviously those goals were different then because we had a different mentality of where we were going to be and what we wanted to do. But they aligned with where I was.
Well, and it not just that, the fact of that you were serious enough that only 2 months in, you were already going to start talking about that. Yes.
Because I knew.
And that's
you know
the
what I mean?
principle
And
here.
so like at the end of the day, like you have to, goals, visions, and missions need to align. Not everything has to be 100% perfect. But I would say that if you're going to get married, if you're going to know you're going to get married, you should know pretty soon. And those conversations should happen pretty soon. I'm not saying on the first date. Get to know someone, become friends with them first. And then a few dates in, start to really settle in. I have a really good friend that I serve with right now. They started dating in February of last year, and they were married in July.
Yeah.
And they're
5 months.
They're the sweetest couple in the world.
That's awesome.
And I serve with them every Tuesday. They're about to have their first kid. They're due around the same time Bailey is.
Nice.
And you know, it's like every story is different. I have another friend that I serve with. They dated for like a year and a half. Then they got married. But the first like 6 months they dated, they didn't really date. They were more just friends getting to know each other. So it's like everyone takes a different approach.
Pace, and also like probably what you're looking for when you start dating. Like some people are like dating, like that starting line of dating also in itself is kind of a blurry starting line.
100%. Because I mean, if you're not friends first, then you're really trying to set a real it's really different.
And so when it does start, then it's kind of like, what's your not intention, but what are your goals in that season? Like some people are dating to marry. Some people are just playing the field, if you will, right?
I tell my brother, he's been dating a girl for 5 months now. Sweetest girl in the world. She's gone on vacation with us. Like they're great. And I'm not saying this, and like if he were to see this, he'd be like, "Why are you saying this on camera?" I say this to him all the time. I'm like, "Dude, when are you gonna propose?"
Matt, is that you?
I'm like, "Dude, when are you gonna propose?" Like, and it's just like you should be dating intentionally. Like 5-6 months in, you should know which direction you're headed.
That's at our age, right? That's a good amount of time to know like what's up.
So, and I think he knows. And so it's like, and cool thing about that is like they've been coming to church, they've been coming to the porch.
That's awesome.
So, and that's a huge prayer answered in my life. But I think when it comes to dating, you just date intentionally.
Most definitely. Speaking of the porch, let's plug that in, man, because that's an active part of your weekly life, right?
Yeah.
And where you serve and what you do. So you mentioned it was a young adults ministry that's a part of Watermark here in DFW.
Yeah.
But what are some of the porch's like values or goals as a ministry? Let's say someone's watching and they're looking for somewhere to start going on Tuesday nights as a young adult. What could they expect? What could they find there at the porch?
So one thing we really like to say is that like the porch is the perfect place for imperfect people.
Nice.
And so I would say that it's a place where you find community. It's a place where you find like-minded people. I can't tell you how many people we encounter on an average Tuesday night. I'd say at least 5 to 10 every Tuesday are either new or it's their first time or they're by themselves.
So it's an actively growing ministry
All the time.
So it's open. Like if you someone shouldn't have to feel
Yeah.
nervous about going for the first time because
100%.
that's just the type of community it is.
So I serve on the one in Fort Worth. The Dallas campus is a lot larger and it started there. JP started it there. And it's a lot larger. I mean, Watermark Dallas is a huge church. And Watermark Fort Worth, like I said, we are a separate church technically, but some of our ministries still reflect thereof what Watermark Dallas produced. And that is one of those being the porch. And we currently are live teaching in-house. We're currently in the middle of a six-week series of the I am statements.
Okay.
And then we'll take a break and we'll stream just like the other porches across the nation. And then we'll go into another 6-week series later on down the road. And we're doing like 4 or 5 of those this year. We're not 100% in-house, but we're getting there. But I would say that it's a place where we have a desire to introduce people to other people their age, to communities of 2 circles of Christian community, and just give people another outlet to get to know each other. You don't have to be a member at Watermark.
Yeah.
We took a poll last year at the end of the year of how many people we average about 220 people on a Tuesday night.
That is not a small crowd.
It's just like a church service.
Yeah.
So you come in, there's 3-4 worship songs, a meet and greet, and then go into a sermon and then a closing worship song. And then everyone hangs out for like 20 or 25 minutes after. But I forgot where I was going with that. We average about 220 people. And we took a poll last fall before we closed out for the year. And when we took that poll, I would say I think it was 50% or 45% of the people that show up on a Tuesday night are either members of Watermark or people that attend Watermark regularly that aren't members yet. But that means that 55% of our Tuesday night are people from other churches that are young adults that are just seeking Christian community.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, I actually, my boy here in the room, actually, back there running the tech, him and some of his friends from church, they go to the Watermark Dallas sometimes just as part of seeking community, getting fed on a Tuesday night, being around people your age.
It's a great avenue.
And most of them actually serve too at their home church.
Yeah.
But it's just an open place to like come and worship, come and, hear a word. And that's awesome, man.
Like anyone you see that serves or teaches, they are active members at that specific church
location.
But anyone that comes on a Tuesday night can be from anywhere,
anything. From
anyone
first time to another church member somewhere.
We have people that are regulars that don't ever come on Sundays. So it's like they just have made friends on a Tuesday night and decided to stay and continue to come.
And same thing with the Monday night. Was it Regen?
Yeah.
I have a good friend of mine that before he got married, and he doesn't go to church anywhere, but he went to Regen on his own for like a whole year, and that was like Watermark served as a part of his life and helping him get ready for marriage in that way. And so like I guess what I'm trying to say is it's really cool that the doors are just open.
Yeah.
And it y'all do a good job at displaying that.
One big thing that we really try to hone in on is that like the church is one body, and everyone might not agree on everything, but at the end of the day, if the foundational truth of like I'm saved by grace through faith and it's nothing that of my own doing, then if we can agree on that, then like
we're good.
The gospel's there.
Yeah.
Let's share it and love each other. And when it comes, especially Regen, that is a great ministry that I would highly recommend to anyone that has any types of struggle. Hurts, habits, and hangups is what they say. You don't have to be an addict. You don't have to be an alcoholic.
I like that because sometimes we could feel like it's isolated to the addict.
Correct. It's people that have pride, anxiety, anger, depression's a huge one that goes through Regen. And I sponsored someone through Regen last year, and it's such a sweet thing to watch people commence and then like complete the program. There's a couple in our community group. They went through Regen before they joined our community group, and they went, so like guys and girls do it separately and they're married. So they did it separately. They got their healing, but at the same time, like it only made their marriage more Christ-centered. So
Right,
it's
because
like
and it was building that foundation simultaneously.
beneficial to everyone in every way.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know from the home, being with you, that you did a little bit of teaching back
Mm-hmm.
then, and you've always been a leader, even I'm sure before the home, whether it be on your basketball team.
Shout out Bricklayers, Rec League.
No, and we got to talk about that too. Before Rec League, yo, this dude hoop, like you were playing college ball, like high school ball, right? Like you were on a. That's kind of how the drug thing got, right? Like
100%.
So let's hear the quick version of that before I.
So, I mean, just like you would hear any other sob story of athletes that tried to make it. Very, very similar. I got I got hurt in high school multiple times, and so like going into my senior year, the offers that I had on the table were taken away. And then so I like going into my senior year, I was like, I'm just gonna party hard. I'm gonna play basketball. I'm gonna make decent enough grades to get into school, and then go wherever I want. And I had no intention of going to the next level, and then ended up getting the opportunity. I went to Brookhaven, which isn't too far from here, right down 75. It's a small junior college, but nonetheless, it is the next level.
Right.
And it was super cool, super awesome. I made some lifelong friends there, and really loved it. And I just made poor decisions, and I got hurt, arrested, and suspended all within like a 2.5 week time period.
Dang.
So that turned, yeah. And so, and I'd already dabbled in drugs, like
Previously.
pills and powder and things of that nature. And so when that happened, and they told me that I was going to have to sit out the first semester, and I would still lose a year of eligibility because I'd technically be on the roster, but I was going to be suspended because of the arrest and my grades. I was like, nah, forget this. I'm going to go do something else. And then I got addicted to pills, and then one thing led to another, and it turned into heroin. And that's the basketball side of things. But yeah.
Okay.
And then ended up in victory.
And that leads me. Yes, sir.
7 years later.
Well, that leads me into, so you were talking about going to the next level in basketball. And so what I was saying is, I know from the home, and even before then, like you've always been a leader. I've listened to you teach sermons, sermonettes, shotgun messages, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
From 10-minute to an hour or 30 minutes. Probably not an hour, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Longer
I
messages.
think I speak too fast to talk for a full hour.
People be like, what? So my question is, basketball going to the next level, that didn't really happen, right?
Yeah.
Went down a certain path. You still play in the rec league, smashing it. Shout out Bricklayers.
Bricklayers. DFW. Check us out on YouTube.
Yeah. Boston, Manny,
Matt,
all y'all
Riley.
boys. Yes, sir. But with the teaching, man, with teaching in the church community, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself going to the next level in that? And I hate even putting it like that way, because we know there's not really.
I know what you mean.
But like, is that something? Let me just rephrase it though, even though you know what I mean. Would you rather? Is that something you'd like to continue pursuing and growing in, or that you see yourself pursuing and growing in?
100%. So
Awesome.
when I was in the home, it's really easy to believe that those and not to like, I'm not bashing the home or saying anything negative or trying to keep bringing it up or anything. But like when I was in the home, I was given a lot of opportunity. And part of that was due to relationships, my relational aspect with Emmanuel and Josiah. It really opened doors for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not blind to that whatsoever. It opened doors for me quicker than it normally would have.
Sure. Yeah.
So
like
I think if I'd have stayed long enough, regardless, those opportunities would have been presented. But I think they happened sooner just due to the relational aspect between me and my friends. And so I really fell in love with teaching there. And then I also believed that I wouldn't ever get the opportunity again if I left. So when I left, I had come to terms with thinking that I would never get the opportunity to teach at that capacity. And I was completely okay with it. And once I knew I was okay with it, like once I realized like that's not even what it's about anyways.
Right.
What it's about, like that's such a like that.
That's an adjacent like bonus to
Sharing the gospel in general.
exactly living the gospel.
I could care less if I get the opportunity to teach again or not. It's a desire that I have, and I definitely had then. But I'd come to terms with like, hey, if this never happens again, like if I just get the opportunity to share the gospel in general, or live out the gospel, or
be saved.
whatever
like,
the Lord has planned for me, I was completely okay.
That's
with
cool. Contentment.
Yeah, and at first I wasn't. It was really hard to let go of that. I don't want to say that and be like, oh, he was holding on to position. It was more or less like, man, I really love doing this, and I don't want to lose it.
Yeah, outside looking in, it can come off as like, losing position and fear of like the platform or whatnot.
It wasn't
what
the position side of things. It was more or less the desire to do it.
Yeah, and like knowing that you're making an impact, whether it was one person or 100 people.
Yeah.
It was like, no, and I can relate, in a lot of the things that I do too. And teaching being one of them. Like, it's just, it's a, if it's there, it's there, you know, if it hits. And you know that to be true because some people are good at it, but they don't like it.
Yeah.
And some people don't like it, but they're good at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you happen to hit both, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's just who you are.
And I'd come to the point where I was like, okay, if it doesn't happen again, man, it's whatever. Like,
Right.
I don't really care. So we go to fast forward. I end up leaving. We get married. We go to Watermark, and like I had actually come to a point to where Bailey and I had a conversation. We actually had an argument, and I had a conversation. I was like, I need to just like. She told me, she's like, you need to just not serve. Like, that's a really good point. Like, you should probably rest, because she was in a place where she didn't want to serve, and I was like really pushing her, like, hey, we need to do this. We need to become members. We need to serve. Blah blah blah. We're like, no, let's take. She was like, convince me. Let's take 3 months off. And I was like, it's a great idea. We just spent 3.5 years serving every day. Why not?
Nice.
So we did, and then January of 23, keep going. We're at Watermark serving AVS, helping out. Good friend of mine named Connor from high school. He's on staff at Watermark, and
Nice.
just like it worked out to where he knew that I had done this at the previous church, like help produce. You and I,
Right.
I didn't do anything technical. I just kind of directed.
Oh no, you did the strobes, bro. No, when you started, dude, I was just, me and Destiny were driving up here just real quick, and and we were on my music, my Spotify library. You're gonna get everything. Like it might be like T.I., it might be worship. Yeah. And so I always just shuffle my liked songs. That's just kind of how I like to listen to my music, unless there's a specific album I'm like binging on.
Yeah.
But Good Grace. Oh, that's crazy because it's called Grace and Good Friends. Yeah. But Good Grace came on, and I was telling her the story. She's like, babe, shut up. You told me the story 100 times. I was like, you don't get it. I was like, when full band, and like right before the breakdown, dude, Robby was strobing, and then I'd black out Pro Presenter. I was like, this was a moment.
We played it every week, dude.
And there's 200 people right in front of you, just like, oh. I was like, dude, this is fire.
Yeah.
And I tried to relive it in the car. She didn't get it.
She wasn't for it.
She didn't understand. But anyways.
Yeah. And so
so they knew Connor.
So Connor, and then so he had kind of shared with some people where I'd come from and what I had done. And then I worked out at the 24-hour fitness off 30 and Horn, and there was a staff member that worked out there as well. And so like just relational equity was built, conversations were had. And then one day the gentleman that worked out at the gym just came and he was like, hey man, I just want you to know that a position opened up at Watermark, and I threw your name in the hat for
nice the
job. And I looked at him and
That's
I was
gnarly.
like, excuse me? What's going on?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. And then he explained it. I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, I have no experience in this position. It was family ministry. The gentleman who was running the family ministry at that time called me about a week later. His name's Drew Zeiler. He's the young adults director now. He said, he's just like, hey, I want to get to know you a little bit. We started talking, and I was like, man, Drew, I'm so grateful for this conversation and this opportunity. I just want you to know that I have none whatsoever experience with kids ministry, children's ministry, anything. It's like, so I don't know how wise this hire would be. He's like, it's really good that you're saying that, because I'm currently writing an offer letter to someone that we already offered the job to. I was like, good.
Sweet.
And he was like, but hearing your story, it sounds like you have a heart for discipleship. And that's literally what the Porch is. It's a discipleship ministry. And so I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you get to exercise that muscle? Because like if I stopped doing it, I hadn't done it for a year.
Of course.
You stop doing it, your muscle goes limp. So it's like and he asked me, he's like, who are you discipling now? And it was like a reality check. I was like, I guess nobody. You're like, he's like, who's discipling you? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess really nobody. Like I'm not really doing anything. I'm kind of stagnant. And he was like, man, I would love to have lunch with you. And I didn't know that he was changing to the young adults director at that time. He just wanted to get to know me. And then obviously there was an agenda to that over the next 3 months, but I had no clue. And then December of 22, he asked me, hey, I'm going to join as the young adults director. Like, would you like to come along with me and serve on the directional team? I was like, 100%. He's like, this is what it entails. And he told me, and he said, teaching was one of those things. He's like, are you comfortable doing that? And I was like, yeah, it's part of my past. He's like, yeah, that's why I asked you to join the directional team, because I know that you've done it. And then like in my brain, it hadn't even clicked yet. Like this opportunity might arise again.
Right.
And so we go through the whole year of 2022, and I don't teach once, but I get on stage, like I do announcements, buttons,
intros.
Like, yeah. And so at the end of 22, randomly he texts me. It was like the Sunday, 10 days prior to the last Tuesday of the year. He was like, hey man, we're going to disconnect from the live stream next week. Do you want to teach? And I was like, I was watching football with Bailey on a Sunday night at the Clover House.
Yo.
Shout out Clover Lane.
Clover Gang, baby. You know what it is. 017. No.
And I was like, yeah, for sure. And so I took that opportunity. And then like in my brain, I was like, wow, this is like really happening. Like it is happening somewhere else. But I had not even thought of it ever happening again. You know what I mean? So it's like, I was okay with that. And then the opportunities presented themselves again and again. And it's just like, it's been great. So yeah, I do get the opportunity to teach. I just taught on John 15, I am the true vine, on the 25th of last month.
Awesome.
And now Manny's serving on the Porch team.
Nice.
He taught the second week on I am the light of the world. So it's like these gifts are being exercised, and it's something that we had both come to terms with. Like,
sure,
it might not happen. If it doesn't, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll teach a 5-person Bible study.
Yeah,
let's have fun. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I love that. And as far as the future goes, full circle, long way of answering this question.
That's what we're about, dude.
Yeah.
It's all good.
The gentleman who brought me along to join the Porch team knows that I have the desire to and want to either help run a church or help plant a church.
Sweet.
And I'm very open about that.
Yeah.
There's that. I don't say that in a way of like, I want position and power. I say it in a way of like, I want to help be a part of the commission that God has given us.
Sure. Yeah.
And whatever that looks like, in whatever capacity. And so if that means that we start a church and they need someone to help teach 5-year-old kids because they don't have anyone to serve, count me in.
Sign you up.
Like, it doesn't matter, but like, I want to be a part of something.
Basically, you're down.
Yeah. I would like to help lead a church and shepherd a people.
It's awesome.
And so it's a desire I have. What that looks like or how it's going to be done,
Uncertain.
I trust the Lord that it'll work out the way it's supposed to.
For sure.
I am intentional in what I do and how I do things, prayerfully, carefully, and just like making sure that my life aligns with the biblical call that God has given me.
Right.
I fall short. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I do say that like I do strive for those things for the glory of God because of my love for God, not out of anything that I desire. I just have a desire for the people of the church,
and everything else is like a
follow up to
fruition of that. Yeah. Gnarly, dude. Well, I forgot to tell y'all this. I had something in my head I wanted to start the episode with, and we're a few minutes in, so I'm a little late. If you watch this podcast for music, I'm sorry, but we are speaking of
I have no musical talent. So
speaking of preaching and church type of esque topical things, you're entering Grace and Good Friends' first ever mini series, baby. That's right. The next 3 episodes have nothing to do with music, so don't leave us. We'll be bringing that back later on in the fall, end of summer. But these next 3 guests, starting today with Robby, and then over the next 4 weeks, the next 2 episodes are just other people, part of the body, Christian, maybe content creators or leaders in their church or whatever they do. But who knows? Maybe I might ask one of them to freestyle. I don't know if they'll agree to it, but yeah, this is the first ever mini series.
He knows not to ask me to do that.
Yeah, mini series of Grace and Good Friends. Man, I did want to ask you. It seems like every time I see you, you get a new tattoo. You have a new tat.
I don't know how wise that is to put out there.
I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but what's your favorite one? What's some stuff that's BC? What's your favorite one? AD? No, I'm playing. But
BC is anything on my forearm, in the inside of my arm, and my chest. I'm about to actually get these covered.
Really?
Yeah, I can't really do much with this pumpkin just due to the fact that it's completely black.
I mean, it fits though. Your birthday's in October.
Yeah, no.
Your birthday's on Halloween,
creepy.
right?
Yeah, it's still really creepy. But I'm gonna get this Pennywise and this. These are non-sober tattoos.
Okay.
So I was just completely obliterated,
Nice.
and I got them at the same time.
Oh, sick! Like 2 different people simultaneously.
I was like, sick, dude. I can make them all line up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I'm gonna get those covered soon. But favorite ones, I would say anything that I like. I have mine and my wife's anniversary on the back of my neck. This is where we went on our honeymoon. I have another coordinates on my thigh of where we went on vacation to Belize. Favorite one, I don't know, man. I would just say anything that has to do with my marriage.
Nice.
So I have
most of them
sunflower
or some of them.
Sunflower on the back of my arm for my wife, and then anything that is I have a honeybee on the front of my leg.
Heck yeah.
She serenades me with that song. So honeybee.
That's pretty sweet. I don't have any tattoos. If I go get one, what should I do? Where should I do it?
Do it.
Should I get Destiny tatted on my forehead?
Young Purpose, dude.
Dude, on my neck.
I would be very, very careful in what you decide to get.
I hear it's like a lot of these things, these expensive hobbies that people have, like guns, shoes, There's other ones. Cameras.
But you've picked up those, right?
Cars. Yeah, recently.
All three of those you just named, I think you picked up.
I actually suffer from addiction to all of those three things. No,
I just got
but I hear it falls into like similar categories. Like once you start, you kind of want more, and
it's more or less like I'm in the mindset of like this was done purposefully.
For sure.
This is after I left home. This was done purposefully. I like had things done.
Was that the first one, like post
home? Yeah, I had one flower done at a time.
Nice.
And then
little bouquet there.
Yeah. And then I would say everything else is more just relevant to the terms of what I'm doing and why I'm getting it. So like coordinates or
right, something significant.
Just
not just like
that, and not necessarily every tattoo is going to mean something super cool. But sometimes I just like stuff, and I'm just like, all right, well, I don't want to get any more that are super visible, so I'm just throwing them on my legs now at this point.
Yeah.
And, well, really just my left leg, but
dude, that's crazy because for me, I always pictured my first tattoo being on my left.
I just have random spots done on my left leg, my thigh, my calf, my shin, my Achilles.
So I'd be straight calf. I'm talking like, and at the time I wasn't really. This is gonna sound so weird. I don't think I've ever really told anybody this, but my zodiac sign is a Sagittarius. So I always pictured a Sagittarius, and then like in Japanese, my name means like thunder sun or something, or thunder.
You're Thor, dude.
Or yeah, well check this out. Sagittarius flying through
thunder,
and then it's.
Can you picture thunder though?
Well, it'd be like a storm. It actually would be lightning, because you could picture lightning.
Yeah, you can't picture. Yeah, I wouldn't get that.
I came up with it like years ago. I probably never do it. And then I also had this weird idea, like my dad's first tattoo, which he got when he was like in his mid-30s, was like this weird like sign on his ankle.
Yeah.
So I always kind of.
I'm surprised that you don't have like any of your lyrics on you.
My lyrics aren't that good.
I mean, you write them though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll do that. I don't know.
I have lyrics on my leg.
For real?
From
a song.
It's an album.
Drop that low.
It says low. It says thankful for the lows. It's a worldly artist that I listened to the very first time I got sober.
Nice.
And so it's like, whenever like nostalgia, like when you hear a song or
of course,
or whatever music it might be, kind of takes you back to that. And so I still listen to his music every now and then. And
cool.
He just put an album out called The Lows, and he has a shirt that says thankful for the lows, and I was like, I like that. So I just really got it tattooed on me.
No, dude, I don't even remember most of my lyrics to like get them tatted. I mean, I know them, but
I figured you would have got something like your album or
maybe
Last Cup 1 and 2.
Dude, Last Cup. I actually had an idea of tatting Last Cup on my knee.
I wouldn't be like, that sounds.
And then taking a picture of me getting that tattoo and that being the Last Cup, because the Last Cup series is already complete. So it's 1, 2, Last Cup 3, Redemption. And then Last Cup Forever is going to be the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going to make 3 or 4, but yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
I'm surprised you haven't done it. Destiny has
not enough
tattoos,
time,
right?
dude. I'm too busy like buying shoes and
guns. I only got one gun. I still haven't even shot it.
What?
Yeah, I
gotta go
3 or 4 months ago.
You gotta go do that.
I do.
What is it?
9mm dagger.
Okay, cool.
I got it off PSA.
You can never go wrong with a 9.
It's pretty solid. But Bailey always says that I turned her. She was like, she never wanted to get a tattoo. Her sister has a sleeve, but she was like, oh, I just never want to get a tattoo. And then she married me, and now she has got like 4.
Heck,
but they're all small. They're all minimal. They're not
right. Well, that's the same with Destiny. She has like 4 or 5 tattoos, and they're all like tiny.
She's like, I never would have done this if I never married you. And I'm like, well, I didn't convince you to do anything.
That's awesome, man. Well, okay. So one question I want to ask you, and then we'll start maybe closing out.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice to your younger self, or maybe someone who's they listen to a little bit of your story today and they might feel like they relate? Like, it doesn't have to be profound. It could be simple, or maybe you don't have anything. That's fine too. But yeah. Is there anything?
I mean, I would just, man.
I didn't mean to drop that.
That's a tough question to answer.
It is.
I would say, like, even as someone I'm 33, going to be 34, and I still seek counsel in pretty much everything I do. Like, there's not one decision there's decisions that I make for my marriage and for my family that I would say I can do on the fly, but not anything big. I always seek counsel. I seek correction. I seek that from people. I desire that in my life. I desire accountability.
Knowing that, like, you don't want to bank it on just Robby.
Yeah. Like, so I would say that in order to be fully known, or in order to be fully loved, you have to be fully known. And so, like, I mean, that's with Christ, but I'm also talking about the people around you. So like there's people in my life that know who I am, where I come from, what I do, and who I am currently, and what I currently do, and what I'm going to do. And they know every aspect and every inch of my life. And it's not just Bailey. And like those are
pillars, dude. Like
the only way I can be fully loved is if I'm fully known.
That keeps you grounded.
Correct. And so if I'm not fully known, then I can't, like, that's where the lies, the deceit, the scheming, all of those things start to come in. There's things in play. And I think that's not even just like from a life of addiction. I think that if you're a Christ follower in general, that you must be fully known. And so, and when you're fully known, you can be fully loved.
I'll take it a step further. I think that could apply to a non-believer as just a principle of life. Like
accountability is real.
Yeah.
100%.
Like needing those pillars and just being fully known, it would help the overall flow of like your life.
I made a joke at work the other day. Manny said something and I was like, dude, you got to be more straightforward with it. He's like, no, I like to think before I speak. I was like, I don't. And that's probably why I only have like 5 friends. And he just started laughing. And then I thought about it and I was like, dang, but those people that know that I like who I am and why I do things or how I operate, like they can check me at any time.
Right.
And I might be uncomfortable at the time in the moment, but like at the end of the day,
sure.
Like, and so,
but you keep an open door policy, like
to my entire life,
to be checked, because at the end of the day, you know what's better for you.
Yeah. So younger self, I would say seek accountability. 100%. I had accountability to a degree. And then like I grew up really fast with my parents splitting up. Yeah. So I had to help my brother a lot, especially my dad being an alcoholic and kind of not being present there. He was more of a friend than a father, if that makes sense. And so at the end, like I had to grow up really fast. So when I got out on my own, it's like almost everything reversed from the last 4 years, and I became a child again, and I had no accountability. Like at home, I had the accountability of making sure my brother was good, making sure my mom was good, my mom making sure I'm good. Like it was a team effort. When I got on my own, I didn't care what anybody said because I didn't have to worry about what
free for all.
Yeah. So accountability, 100%.
Folks, you heard it here live on Grace and Good Friends. Accountability, seek it,
Yep.
Get it, get plugged in. If you're in DFW, Tuesday night. Oh, I wanted to ask this. What is the demographic of a young adult for someone watching? So we talked about young adult. What age range are we talking about?
So in the Dallas area, if you're in the Dallas area, if you go to the Watermark Dallas, they have a college ministry for specifically 18 to 22 year olds. And then they also would encourage you to go to the Porch if you would desire, but they do have a college ministry in Fort Worth. If you're in the Fort Worth area where I am, we don't necessarily have a direct college ministry for 18 to 22 year olds. So anyone from 18 to about 33-ish is at the Porch. So that would be considered a young adult.
That's a big range.
There's a lot of room for discipleship.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I get the opportunity to walk with and walk alongside new believers, some guys that are more mature in their faith than I am, and they're 23, 24 years old, just because they've been around the faith and they got saved a long time ago.
So it's like
a beautiful thing. It's
like a melting pot.
I mean, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
It's one man sharpens another. It's like, it's a very cliche statement, but it's very real.
Well, it's the scripture.
Yeah.
You know,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People will use that just to use it.
It'd be like, two pencils.
It's just like, but I would say that, anything in Fort Worth, it's 18 to 33-ish, depending on where you want to be.
Cool.
But the Porch it's a great place for young adults that are seeking Christian community.
It's like at 7 p.m. or something.
7:10 on Tuesday nights is when worship starts. We're usually out of there by about 9:05. And then other than that, we have a social event on Saturday the 22nd at a skating rink.
Nice.
It's called
Roll bounce?
Roll back something.
Oh,
close.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is roll. I don't know. But Roll Bounce is a movie.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so it should be fun.
Heck yeah.
But we do stuff like that. So there's 6 social events a year. Bailey and I are actually co-leading a Bible study starting Monday night for young adults.
Okay.
In one of our community group couples' homes. So it's open invite. And it's in Fort Worth. And we're going to be walking through the 7 statements of hope. This week is Luke 7:36 through 50. And we're just, that's an 8-week thing, but the Porch is every Tuesday.
Awesome. 18 to 33 in Fort Worth. Go to the Watermark campus. Say what's up to Robby. Say you saw him on the podcast. That'll make his day. Ask for his autograph.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
You'll make me feel extremely uncomfortable.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Get accountability. Dog, this is all you. You get to close us out. If there's anything you want to say, pray, or do, or if you want to shout out your IG handle, where people can connect with you, ask you questions. Maybe someone else is seeking discipleship. I don't know. But whatever you want to do, that's all you right there. And it's Jariah signing off, passing it to Rob.
Not much to say other than, like I told Jariah, seek accountability, be fully known, and you can be fully loved. And I would say that anyone that is struggling with addiction, there is another side, and I'm on that other side, and so is Jariah, and we know many people that are. So God bless you all, and thanks for having me, dude.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Love y'all, man. Peace. Good night. Let's go.